Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Swiss. Today I'm gonna quickly cover an interesting topic. Let's see how much detail we can get in here, but I don't want to make it too long because it's pure speculation. We don't know exactly what's going on, but I think we can have an educated guess at what is currently happening. Let's talk about Decentraland, let's talk about Decentraland Worlds, and let's talk about other metaverse platforms that are currently joining the space, competing for the eyeballs of the relatively small metaverse community. Now, if you are anywhere on LinkedIn, you will realize that if you follow some of the metaverse influencers, there is a lot of hype happening. A lot of people are joining the bandwagon. It feels like the metaverse is reaching the mainstream, and it's just a matter of time until we start seeing a lot more people getting into this space and actually building something in there, be it for businesses, for personal projects, and so forth. I think we're really on the verge of seeing some growth in this space. And within that context, I would just like to quickly talk about Decentraland. And well, because Decentraland is the place where I started, I do love and care about the place, and I would like to see it flourish. But I also don't mind speaking out about things which are not going right whenever I feel like it's justified. It's not necessarily a Decentraland bashing video here, but I would like to point out a few concerns that some of the community members have kind of voiced to me. And I was wondering if that is actually true. Like, some people are worried right now that Decentraland has launched that Decentraland Worlds project, and apparently, they think that it will cannibalize the demand for metaverse land. And investors who have bought plots of land on the map are currently those lands are currently selling at 2,600 mana, and this is the cheapest land that I could find right now. This is roughly $1,600. So prices have come down significantly. Some of these lands sold at double the price just a few months back, roughly 5 to 6,000 mana. And back then, the mana USD value was like through the roof. Right now, for one mana, you get 60 cents, and back then this was at 2, 3, $4. So land prices in USD terms have really collapsed, and I understand people holding on to land right now feel a little bit nervous, especially those who have speculated on land and are not actually building something on the land. Like, I've gone through a couple of cycles with my lands that I used to have, but I was actually building on those lands, and I was happy to invite people to my land to see my build, to experiment with the platform. So for me, even if the price of the lands were like collapsing, it didn't matter to me because, well, I mean, of course it mattered, but I was building on that land, so this was the primary use case for me. But now what's happening is that Decentraland has introduced this new project which is called Decentraland Worlds, and it allows you to have access to the tooling of Decentraland. It allows you to build on a land plot literally free of charge. Yes, you do have to buy an NFT, a name NFT, at roughly 100 mana, which is in today's mana price is roughly $60. So for $60, you can actually start building in Decentraland. You don't have to go and buy a land for 1600 or more. And of course, I understand that people have concerns. And honestly speaking, I think they're onto something. I think uh, I think this will definitely have an impact in the on the land prices. Now, um, why did they launch this project? In in my view, this was a bit of a defensive move because they're seeing that projects like OnCyber, which originally was an NFT gallery, has kind of moved in and has started to launch these metaverse features. And then we had Hyperfy come in, really killing it. Like, uh, they're really doing a great job. Even that I had to kind of build something in that platform because it's so good in my opinion. But there is also Spatial, which is also fantastic features. Now, if you are into creating an isolated metaverse, right, where you don't have a common map, where you don't have other people owning land on that map, where it's only you. And I think for a lot of use cases, these kind of isolated spaces are just much more practical and, more importantly, with a much lower barrier to entry. So I think Decentraland has launched this Worlds project to kind of participate in the space, to have a horse in the race. I believe once they have fully implemented all of the features and the editor features that they are planning, this will be a great project, and I think it will help Decentraland position itself in that newly developing branch of the metaverse, that isolated world branch. And then the question is, what happens to the overall central map of Decentraland going forward? And while I believe in the long run, this is going to be a flourishing Genesis city with a lot of people walking the streets, a beautiful Web3 project. But the problem is, like, what happens in the short run when there is very little foot traffic, there is not enough of concurrent users being online. I mean, let's just remember that scandal a couple of months ago where someone published an article of Decentraland having only 38 users. Uh, this has really upset a lot of people in the community, and I totally understand it, because to a degree there is some truth to that, right? Even if it's 380 or 500 people using the platform, that's not enough for the valuation it has in the marketplace. I mean, Decentraland and the Mana token are listed on every single central exchange. Everyone who wants to invest in the metaverse will not really like be able to, not at least buy some Mana, right? Like, this has been the project to represent the metaverse space, and if someone claims there is only 38 users, people get upset. And the truth is, we did check. Decentraland has roughly 500 concurrent users, and a lot of these users, and yeah, I think it's just more important to look at concurrent users at any point in time rather than look at some kind of fixed number, which was incorrectly reported. But 500 concurrent users is actually not that much either, especially that a lot of those players are poker players who were delegated NFTs to play poker for profit with Decentral Games on their poker playing properties inside Decentraland. So a lot of those players are there for work. And so let's say at least a third of the concurrent users, which is 500, is coming there not to be part of the community, but mostly to grind it. And so there are not that many people on the map for me to say, hey, I want to own some land on this map right now. And then the question is, if you are an investor, you of course want to buy into a project at the bottom when there is FUD, when it's early. And if you have missed your opportunity in 2000 or in 2019, 2020, 2019, then now may be another opportunity to buy a piece of land if you believe in this project long term, and if you believe that a commonly populated map is the future of the metaverse. And it's a tough decision to make. In my opinion, we are going to see isolated worlds taking the lead, and people are going to enjoy the low barrier to entry. They're going to enjoy easier building tools. They're going to enjoy a lot of the features which these platforms are going to launch, which will allow non-developers to quickly build up interactive worlds. And I think performance-wise, they will be better than Decentraland. And I hope that Decentraland Worlds will be able to build out a competitive product in this space. And as soon as they do, I want to be a part of it. And then the question is, what is the number when we speak about the long run for the common map? I think it would make sense if prices continue to slide. The only reason why they wouldn't go further down is if the current holders, investors in land, will just hold on to their land, because most of these guys have made money on Mana or in crypto in general, and they don't need to sell in the short term. So if they will not add to the sell pressure, I think prices may hold steady. But I think there are going to be people who are going to sell the bottom on these lands, and I think we're going to see some, you know, downward momentum here. Um, but again, I mean, I've been repeatedly surprised on what's possible in this space, how logic and reason is less relevant in the crypto space than in regular life. So you could see totally the opposite, of course. But one thing you need to know, when you buy land, it's relatively illiquid to sell it unless it has a prime location. And it's going to take some, you cannot just flip a land that easily. You will have to actually wait a little bit and wait for the right buyer. And for that, you need to have demand. And if demand is low, and if you invest into land right now, the probability that you will be able to sell it is relatively slim. So I think people in this space, they understand that, and that would kind of reduce the buy pressure for the land. So eventually, I think the only way for now for land prices is to go down and hopefully stay somewhat stable. And hopefully, if land prices go down, it will eventually coincide with some people having experimented with the tooling kit in the Decentraland Worlds, and then these guys will then have an option to start populating the main map. But this is probably going to happen with the next generation or the generation after. I don't think the current generation has proven that it wants to and has the skills to build in Decentraland. We will have to wait for the next wave of people to come in and to take over the map, and they will need to have good prices to get into Decentraland. Again, this is all speculation. I just wanted to speak my mind on this topic, and I think for the time being, if you are curious about the metaverse in general and you would like to start creating something, I think it's best to focus on projects like Hyperfy or projects like OnCyber or projects like Spatial, where you can create 3D assets and you can relatively easily deploy them in the world. Those teams are very agile and quick to ship new features. You have an active community, you have people clearly communicating what's being worked on, and I think you're just going to have much more fun building in these spaces, and hopefully also, of course, with Decentraland Worlds, than on the common map in Decentraland. Now, I hope, and Decentraland has hired a lot of people. If you check LinkedIn, they have hired a lot of people, so they have the capacity to make some big moves in the space. But from where I am, I don't see much happening in a game-changing matter. We still don't have a builder tool. It's still hard for non-developers to build here. I've been crying out about this for 3 years. Almost nothing has happened, and Decentraland Worlds is too hard to use for regular users. I think I think I think I think things will play out accordingly. Anyways, guys, if you are a Decentraland landholder, if you are in for the long term, you probably don't care, because in the long run we all believe that the project is going to flourish. If you are just joining in the short term and you would like to build and you would like to learn and you would like to experience, I don't think you need to buy Decentraland land, especially if this is a little bit out of your budget in the first place. If you are an investor, maybe you could speculate on a long-term investment here, but be very careful with that. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, guys, thank you for joining in, and talk to you next time. See you. Bye bye.